friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria, and for today's video I really wanted to shine a little bit more of a light on books that I don't talk about as often that I still really enjoyed. So basically what I did was I went through my Goodreads challenges for the past couple of years since I started using Goodreads, and I picked out 5 books that I really enjoyed when I read them that I don't talk about as much, mostly because I read them a while ago and maybe I talked about them in my videos like when I first started my channel, but I haven't talked about them in a while, and we have a lot of new friends now, or they are books that I have ones that are like more favorites, so I like tend to reach towards those instead. So these are ones that I still really loved, really enjoyed, that I just wanted to talk about since they don't get as much screen time on my channel. So I have 5 and they're different genres and things. They're all romances and they're all pretty different tropes and everything, so I'm just gonna share them with you. So the first one is one of my favorite books that I don't talk about much at all. I think that I actually did a video where I talked about how I really want to read more older woman, younger man romances because I'd only ever read like one. I completely like forgot that this book existed and that I absolutely loved it, and that is The Forbidden Man by Karina Halley. I was obsessed with this book when I read it. I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it so freaking much, and I completely forget about it in recommendation videos or just in when I list books that I'm like, these are my favorite books. I completely forget to list this book. This one is, like I said, an older woman, younger man romance. The heroine, I think her name is Talia, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. I'm not great with character names, but I think that's her name. I know that the hero's name is Alejo, but the heroine is a therapist. She is like a sports therapist, and she actually, I think, was married, and then she has to leave her job and she ends up getting a job with the soccer team Real Madrid and having a romance with one of the players who is much younger than her, and that player's name is Alejo, like I said, and he loves the heroine. He so worships her, and the heroine really deserves it because she is at an age, at a place in her life, because of her divorce, because of just like circumstances of being a woman. She is struggling a lot to feel beautiful and feel powerful and comfortable in herself and feel sexy, and Alejo thinks that she is the sexiest woman ever, and he really helps remind her that she deserves to be worshipped, she deserves to feel beautiful, and that she is beautiful. And this was, they're called The Forbidden Man, so obviously it's a forbidden romance because they work together and because he's a player and she is on the staff. But I absolutely adored this romance. I thought that it was done so well, and I don't know why I always forget that it's a thing. But this is probably where my love of older woman, younger man romances came from. I think that that was probably the first one that I read. I think I read it in 2020, if I remember correctly, which is when I first started like re-getting into romance. It's been a while, and I should really go back and reread it because I don't think I've ever reread it, but I loved it, and I would highly recommend it. The next one that I have is actually a historical. When I talk about historicals that I love, I tend to talk about Joanna Shupe or Tessa Dare or Kerrigan Byrne. Like, those are my 3 go-to historical romance recommendations, and I always forget to include this romance, which I absolutely love, and that is 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake by Sarah MacLean. This one is about a heroine who has always followed the rules. She's always followed society's rules for being a woman, for being in society. She has never done anything against what she's supposed to do. And she's basically at a point where she's like, that hasn't gotten me anywhere. I have followed all of these rules. I have missed out on all of these things that men get to do, that people who are outside of society get to do. and I followed all the rules that you're supposed to follow in order to do well in society, and it hasn't gotten me anywhere. I'm still doing nothing. And so she basically is fed up and is like, I'm gonna break the rules. And so she makes a list of 9 things that she wants to do that are not allowed for women. So she makes this list of things that they're mostly things that only men get to do. And she's like, I'm gonna break all of the rules and I'm gonna do these 9 things. And she does them. And she ends up meeting this man who is titled, I don't think he's a duke, he might be an earl, something along those lines. And he helps her complete this list. And they fall in love along the way. The hero is definitely very roguish. He's very good at breaking society's boundaries, at breaking society's rules. And it's really, really cool to see the heroine, whose name I think is Cassie, break out of her shell and be a little bit more sure of herself. She's able to actually like learn her own personality and what she actually like enjoys doing, what she wants to do. And I loved it, and I thought it was so good. It was one of the first historicals that I read after I became obsessed with Tessa Dare's historicals. I was looking for new ones that I would love, and I found Sarah McLean. And this is my favorite Sarah McLean, and it's not one that I normally talk about when I talk about historicals, because I do have those main go-to authors of Joanna Shupe, Tessa Dare, and Kerrigan Byrne. So would highly recommend 9 Rules to Break if you enjoy historicals, or if you want to get into historicals. I do think that it would probably be a decently good first historical if you are a contemporary fan. The next one that I have is Blindsided by Victoria Denault. This one I actually read because it was part of the Moo U hockey series that was in the World of True North. And the World of True North is based off of Serena Bowen's True North series, and you do not have to read them in order. You do not have to read Serena Bowen's True North before reading the Moo U universe or the World of True North universe at all. You can read any of them as standalones. That's how they're written. But I was am still a huge Serena Bowen fan. I loved Serena Bowen. She was my top favorite author. At the time when I first started reading her, I was obsessed and was reading everything. And so when she announced that she was doing the World of True North, I was so excited, and I read all of the Moo U books, and I think I read all of a couple of other series that are in that same universe. And a lot of them were from authors that I had never heard of before, which was so fun. And my favorite one in the whole Moo U series was this one, which is Blindsided. And the Moo U series in its entirety are hockey romances. They are college hockey romances. All of the heroes play hockey for the Vermont University Moo U hockey team. But the reason that I loved this one so much is because it's a rival families romance. Rival families is one of my top favorite tropes. I adore rival families romances, and there aren't as many of them as there should be. I freaking love them. I think that they're so fun. They are added this great like forbidden element to them. But basically this is a Romeo and Juliet style rival families romance where the two families are neighbors. They are both like their farmlands are both right next to each other, and their like houses are both right next to each other, and families do not get along. They hate each other. There is this long-standing feud, rivalry that's been going on between them, to the point where a lot of the like younger kids don't know why the rivalry started. They just know that they are grown and taught to hate the other family. So basically what happens in this romance is the heroine and the hero are from different families, but they're the same age and they go to college together. They both are in the same college, and the heroine catches the hero in a compromising position and is able to use that information to blackmail him into sharing the booth at the farmer's market. So her family wasn't able to get a booth at the farmer's market, but that money is really important to their family. And so she blackmails him into allowing her and her sister to share his family's booth with them. And because of that, it's very like forced proximity. The two of them are working at the same booth. And also it has a great like competitive element to it because they're trying to like outsell each other or like bring customers to like the table to be like, oh, don't buy his produce, buy ours instead. But they're at the same booth, and it was so fun, and I just had such a great time with it. And the tension between the two of them rises so much, and it leads to this great sexual tension and energy that's between them, and I loved it. I had such a fun time with it, and I would highly recommend it. Okay, so the next book that I have is one of my favorites that I never mention. I very rarely talk about this book, and I don't know why, because it is amazing. And if you haven't read it, you absolutely have to, and that is Managed by Kristen Callahan. This is part of the, I think it's called the VIP series. It's a Rockstar romance series, but you do not have to read the other books. This is the best one. This is technically book 2, and it is actually about the manager of the band and not an actual member of the band. And the manager's name is Gabriel Scott, and he is the epitome of a grumpy hero. He is so grumpy and just very particular about things, and I adore him. He's amazing. So the heroine ends up getting is on a plane to London for a job offer, and she ends up getting upgraded to first class by the person whose job that she's applying for, and she ends up sitting next to Gabriel Scott, who is the manager of this band. And Scotty has terrible anxiety. He has serious anxiety, and he does not like flying, and the two of them end up sort of bonding on this flight. But they also really irritate each other because it's definitely sort of a Grumpy Sunshine kind of vibe where the heroine is like so happy-go-lucky and the hero is so grumpy. But throughout this romance, it is so cute the way that the heroine really becomes his safe space and his safe person, because he does deal with so much like stress and anxiety, and it's really cute. It was just the cutest thing ever, and I love everything about it, especially the hero. He was just made this book so amazing for me, and if you haven't read it, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it because it is just so freaking good. The forced proximity, the Grumpy Sunshine is just top tier, and I freaking love it. Alright, so the last book that I'm going to talk about in this video is Home Plate by Christina Lee. So this one is a sports romance. It is a baseball romance, and I rarely ever mention it. I think I've probably mentioned it in like 1 or 2 videos ever. But this one is a sort of frenemies to lovers moment. The 2 heroes are the pitcher and the catcher for their college baseball team, and they're now seniors in college, and they do not have the best relationship on the field. Like, they definitely are sort of frenemies, but they need to have good chemistry. They need to work together in order to be a good pitcher and catcher and to do well for baseball for the year. And so their coach recommends that they do some team building and basically has serious forced proximity for them and makes them like spend all of their time together. And it ends up being a bi-awakening romance, and it deals with some serious like internalized serious internalized homophobia. One of the heroes is just like absolutely not wanting to deal with the fact that he could be gay. He is so against it and struggles a lot. There's a lot of angst and emotional struggle of him dealing with his sexuality and his own feelings about his sexuality, not to mention the relationship that he has developing with this teammate of his. The two of them ended up having insane chemistry, and I loved it. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this book, which is different from a lot of other MM romances that I've read, is that this is a double bi awakening. So they both are coming into their sexuality, which I don't read very often. Most of the time when I read MM romances and there's a bi awakening in it, it's usually one hero knows that he's gay or is out and the other one is dealing with a bi awakening, but this one is both of them. And it just made it so interesting, and they really butt heads a ton. They like don't agree on anything other than the fact that they piss each other off. But when that sexual tension starts heating up and when they're forced to spend so much time just the two of them, it is so good, and I freaking loved it. And this is another one that I really should reread because I haven't reread it ever since I first read it, and it was a good one, and I really enjoyed it. So I would highly recommend it if you want a baseball romance, if you want a college romance, if you want MM. So that is the last one though. That is the 5 that I was going to recommend for this video. Please let me know down in the comments below if you like this type of video, if you want me to go and make a couple of more videos recommending some more books that I just don't talk about very often or haven't talked about in a really long time, because I had fun going through and choosing ones that I love to give a little bit of a spotlight to. But that's going to be it for this video, so I hope that you enjoyed it. Please like if you liked it and subscribe, stick around, and I hope that you have the absolute best day.